This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Terrence, what you got, man? If it's not my computer, it's Terrence's. All right. Terrence, do you want to try and hop out back in, or should we just kill this and try it one more time?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can now.
Yeah, I was on mute.
That's the cold opening of the show right there.
Yeah.
That's because I was talking to you for a minute there, and I was on mute. So
okay, we're both on mute. See, because on this you can mute on the screen or on my headset.
I always do it on the screen. I never mess with the headset.
Yeah,
I hit it on accident. I put my knee on it, and it went on, and I thought it was. I think I hit mute and volume, and so anyway, you want me to start over on the cover?
Yeah.
All right. So what I was saying with the cover while I was muted there was
you don't like the
a look at the character starting in 1989, and currently for us, it is 1996. I'm your host, Rob Myers. Welcome to episode 134. This show is brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for everything Batman and Robin. We're also part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network. Speaking of podcast networks, here's another great one at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can find us there as well. So between the two universes, the Batman Universe and Batman Podcast Network, you can find us. Speaking of find us, you can find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/EveryoneLovesADrake. We are primarily on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. You can head over to Instagram and check us out there. And our good buddy Terrence is helming the YouTube channel, and just search Robin Everyone Loves a Drake, and you can find us there as well. And if you listen on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, leave a review of the show, and we will read that as well. Like I said, I'm one of your hosts, Rob, and with me tonight I have both Terrence and Ryan here. Let's start with Terrence. Terrence, how are you doing tonight? It's been so long I can't get my tongue to work properly tonight. How are you doing?
I know. I'm wondering how many times will you re-record the intro.
Yeah, the whole intro is just going to be done.
Our intro will not be a one of one, that's for sure. Yeah.
No, it'll be a one of 425, and Rob is deleting all his curse words. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I've got like a little cold, but that's not going to stop me from trying to record with the Drake and eating some pork rinds. So some vegan pork rinds.
You powered through your mishap. I had storm, electrical. Then my niece was like, "Hey, I'm going off to college. Let's have a bonfire." So we're out at the bonfire. All of a sudden, I'm like, my nasal sinuses were all closed and I'm sneezing and crying like a crazy person. My wife's like, what the hell happened to you? I'm like, I don't know. Can we go home? So before we start talking about everything Tim Drake, a little quickly wanted to hear like what your guys' summer have been since we've been kind of MIA for a little bit. Have you guys done any comic book shopping, or have you guys been just doing family stuff? Terrence, what have you been doing, sir?
I actually went to Free Comic Book Day last weekend, and that was kind of fun. I made a little YouTube video for it as well. Did either of you guys make it to Free Comic Book Day?
No, not
I completely forgot it was Free Comic Book Day.
It's usually in May, but right?
Yeah.
But later.
I was cutting the grass, and I came in, and I was looking at Twitter, and help me out with the name, the guy you do the Kiss podcast with?
The Carusos, probably Nico or Nick.
I think who's the dad? Their names are too similar.
Yeah,
Nick.
Daddy Bats.
Daddy Bats.
I think I looked on. It came up on Twitter with some free comic book. I'm like, oh snap! Today's the day. So I rushed over there. Yeah, it was kind of fun. It had like a preview for Fear State. So we'll see how that goes. But it's actually, I think James Tynion's like, here's this big event, but I'm leaving. Yeah,
I'm leaving.
See ya, suckers. Yeah.
What about you, Ryan? What's your summer been like?
Just kind of been working a lot, actually. I guess by the time this show comes out. When's this show come out, by the way?
If everything goes according to plan, it should be released Wednesday, August 25th.
No.
Wednesday, August 25th. How early?
Probably like...
What did you say?
I don't know what the hell I said, and there's nothing I can do. It's a machine. The little light is blinking right now. Come and listen to the idiot. Hey, everybody, the idiot's on.
9 a.m.
Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? I tell you, I gotta plead ignorance on this thing, because if anyone had said anything to me at all when I first started here, that sort of thing was frowned upon. You know, because I've worked in a lot of offices, and I tell you, people do that all the time.
Okay, so somebody's listening to this the second it comes out. You should watch the opening night live for Gamescom. I'll just say that. So do that. And so yeah, I've been really busy at work, and some cool stuff's on the way. And yeah, I've just been doing some family stuff, hanging out with the kid. We've been having a good time, just kind of getting Batman toys and playing with Batman Legos, and
that's awesome.
Binge watching Teen Titans Go. Like we've watched the entire series like 1.5 times at this point, and I'm just really loving how Warner Brothers is like injecting Teen Titans into whatever they can. Like the new Space Jam movie came out, but they also did Teen Titans Go watch Space Jam. So
I saw that.
So I did. So it's such a cool parent thing at this point to have a 4-year-old and be able to be like, okay, kid, we're gonna watch. You love Teen Titans already, Teen Titans Go. So we're gonna watch Space Jam, the original, and now we're gonna watch Teen Titans Go. Watch Space Jam, and now we're going to watch the new Space Jam. Like, it's really cool. Like, it'll be interesting to get her perspective, 10, 15 years from now, and be like, okay, tell me all your nostalgia, what was cool, and see if any of these things match up for her,
Our summer's just been doing little day trips here and there while... my wife's been, we've all been working through everything, so we get a chance to get away. But our big thing, which ties in to our other show, speaking of when this episode comes out, we will actually be at a Kiss concert on Wednesday the 25th. So that'll be the first real big event that we've been to post-COVID. So crossing fingers, everything goes according to plan. We'll see that show. And then a week later, I will see Kiss again, which those tickets were from my mother from Christmas of 2019. So yeah, we've got, and then our tail end of the year, we're going to hopefully, if everything still is okay, we'll probably see like 4 or 5 different concerts. So it's going to be very musical for the wife and I in the latter part of the year. So yeah, we'll see how far we get.
my favorite band is the Killers, and
oh nice,
and they just came out with a new album like last week, and they just scheduled a new concert for the Raleigh area like at the end of September.
Nice.
Fingers crossed,
right?
World things that are still happening. If that happens, that'll be the first time I've Well, no, I saw their first concert in the state.
Okay.
This will be maybe the second or third time they've been in the state, so that'll be cool if that happens.
Yeah.
Where are they playing in Raleigh?
And the Red Hat.
Oh, okay.
Amphitheater.
Oh, that's a cool place. That's a cool theater. Rob, Kiss is playing Raleigh on August 28th, which is my wedding anniversary. So I will
Nice.
not be going to see them. my
That
wife.
sounds like the perfect. I mean,
Yeah, dude, my wife's
you
not a
dance to a
fan.
Kiss song
and-
at your wedding. Oh.
Yeah, she doesn't want Gene Simmons spitting blood all over her for our.
Oh, how romantic! It's red.
Yeah, and our wedding anniversary last year was our 10th anniversary, which should have been, a big celebration. But with COVID and the lockdown, we couldn't really do anything, so we gotta, kind of make up for it for the 11th. So, yeah,
Nice.
no Kiss concert. Although the tickets are
Spinal Tap.
outrageously expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Take it to 11.
Oh yeah.
11th anniversary.
Spinal Tap is another band. They came around when I was in high school, and they actually played my area
Oh my gosh.
on the day of my high school graduation. And I was going to skip
Should've
my
skipped it.
graduation
I
to
would've
go
skipped
see
it.
but I couldn't
I would have.
I couldn't get any other person to go with me. They're all like, "Dude, my grandma's coming in.
that'd have been great.
I can't miss." And so so there's another concert I missed. Yeah,
So for the musical portion of this podcast,
yeah.
I graduated high school in 93, so my junior year in 92, that was the big, huge Guns N' Roses Metallica tour that was going on. So our graduation fell, or not our, but the graduation that year fell on the Toledo show for Guns N' Roses and Metallica. And like 4 seniors skipped the graduation to go to the Guns N' Roses
Oh, yeah.
Metallica show. And 2 of them were like side by side, read their name, and they're like, after a while, people would yell from the crowd, "Guns N' Roses." It was really kind of funny. People
That's
were like,
amazing.
why would you skip your graduation? And people beside us were like, "Dude, it's Guns N' Roses and Metallica. Why wouldn't
Why
you?"
wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. But more on that if you want to hear some more music. I'll plug Right Between the Eyes podcast, where we'll geek out with the Caruso boys. But more on that later. This is the Drake podcast, so sorry we've been gone for a little bit of the summer, but hey, once the world got opened back up, we've all been doing just some fun things that we've been wanting to do, but we're getting back on course. We have finally got through Contagion and Legacy, and I feel like 500 other crossovers on the show. Like, we have read...
Our fake pandemic's over before the real one is.
I know.
I thought that would not be the case, to be honest.
I did too. I thought as long as it was taking us to go through it, just with the amount of books that we were reading, I thought, man, we're going to be 2 years past the pandemic before we get out of this. And we've, like you said, finished a fake pandemic, and we're still kind of in the throes of another one. So I've got some tweets here from last week as the time that we're recording this, when we were originally supposed to record because of Knucklehead here having some issues. So I'd put out that we're covering today Robin 34 and Detective Comics 704. And this is part of the 1 of 1. So this was DC's way of saying, okay, we've tied you guys in for the last 3 or 4 years of reading Nightwing and Catwoman and Robin and Detective and Shadow the Bat and all those books. So DC decided to go, all right, we'll give you a break. If you only want to read the Robin book, that's the only book you have to buy. You don't have to buy a Detective. But, of course, a lot of us were still doing that anyway. So I put up a tweet. And Andrew Schweitzer had said one and done stores was such a lost art these days, or such a lost art these days. And I think that's kind of true. I feel like everything that comes out is just a setup for the next story.
Mm-hmm.
So,
even if it is like a standalone issue, it's still leading up to the next thing. Yeah.
And I always miss the days, even when, like, leading up to Nightfall, you could still kind of read some of those books as its own thing, and there's a small little plot thread that you kind of get rewarded when the big event started. You're like, oh, so this character we were introduced, 2.5 years ago is finally coming into play. So Jay Yaws, another friend and podcasting partner from some of us here, says, without a doubt, made the Robin title so appealing to me when I was first starting to read comics. And then Andrew replied back, said that exactly, those were instrumental in getting new readers. Heck, even the 2-part stories aren't bad. That's what brought me into comics in 2007 when I moved into a new town and found a new comic shop and was surprised to see Robin was still in action. He puts a picture up of Robin This is a great cover by Patrick Gleason. If you haven't checked it out, Robin, 154 and 155, where you don't see this an awful lot. You get one cover, and then you get the aftermath of what happens in the next, where he's taken off his disguise as Robin and then has just beat everybody and saved all the kids. Where just looking at the two covers, you kind of get the idea of maybe what the story is going to entail. So I miss things like that.
Yeah, that's right in the era when I was reviewing the book for Batman on Film, right in that Gleason era when he was doing the covers.
Yeah.
That's I'm really fond of that era because they did. It feels like they were doing a riff off of what Dixon had set up anyway, right? Like with the single 1 or 2 issue arcs, but they're all part of a larger story, larger universe continuity. It was a really good time.
Yeah, just a great way of being able to bring in characters and have little vignettes or showpieces, like you said, and part of something else. And Jay Oz said those excellent choices there for Pat Gleason covers, and we got a like from Patrick Gleason, which I thought was kind of cool. Good friend of the show, Pop Culture Affidavit, Tom Panarese himself says, I remember enjoying those issues, that whole one and done period. I'd replied back to him and said, picking up single books was a great joy back then, endlessly, rather than to be endlessly connected, which I do miss that, looking at things like Three Jokers that was, 3 issues, and even the White Knight being 7 or 8 issues in their own series. You don't get a lot of those just single issues. The only thing you're getting is in like almost an anthology book that DC might be putting out, but even those are all still kind of connected. So I miss those days, just going into the grocery store and picking up a book off the spinner rack, and if you didn't make it back to the shop in 2 or 3 months, you weren't completely lost because you got to have a single issue. So any just quick thoughts on the one and done before we get in?
Yeah, so I'll be the old curmudgeon old man here. I hated the ones of ones when I was reading these books back in, what year did this come out? 96, I think. The reason why was I loved the crossovers. I loved the Nightfall. I loved the Contagion. I loved all that stuff. And the only outlet I really had to what other people thought of the books was the letter columns. So I would read all these people like bad-mouthing, like, why do I have to buy all these books, and why do I have to this and that? And I was like, oh, come on, man. These are what you'll remember. These are the classic. These are the things I loved. So the one-on-one, I felt it was kind of like a dumbing down, like, oh, we can't read the whole, Contagion series, so just read one book, Now that I'm kind of older, I kind of going back, I kind of like, oh yeah, look, this book, I can just read this one book tonight for the podcast, or these 2 books, and it's all self-contained. I'm kind of a hypocrite now because I went to a comic book store over by my daughter's college, and I made a little YouTube video of it. It is an interesting comic book place. It looks like maybe like a comic book store like after the apocalypse happens. Like it's really run down. But what did I buy there? Well, I bought Robin 45 and Robin 46. And why did I buy them? Because they both said 1 of 1 on them. And I was like, oh, look, there's some 1 of 1s. So, I've come to kind of like them a little bit more now. But I remember at the time really disliking them. Yep. Yeah, they're cool.
You have anything for that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think somebody asked a question related to this on one of our recent Q&A episodes of the Batman Book Club that I was on, that podcast. And somebody was saying, well, do you prefer bigger arcs or single one and done issues? And what's interesting is when I start to think about that, you're like, my gut reaction is like, yeah, I like the one and done issues because you just read it and like it's a complete thought, it's a complete story, and you can read it more. But then when you think like, okay, fine, well, name 5 of your favorite one and done stories, and then you're like, Nightfall? No, that's not it. Legacy? Right. No, that's not it either. Year One? No, that's not it either. So there is definitely something to be said about the bigger stories because that's usually where the bigger, shifts in continuity or status quo happens. That's where bigger, more major thing like Hush. Like they're all bigger, longer. Story arcs.
Yeah,
but then again, the individual issues I feel are more conducive to like different eras and creative teams. 'Cause that's what I think of in terms of like random single issues. It's more like creative teams, like you've got your Dixon and Graham Nolan, Robin. You've got your Alan Grant, Norm Brayfogle stuff, and you've got the Doug Munch and Kelly Jones Batman run. You think of runs, or Paul Dini's detective run, which is a big, nice collection of good one and done stories that again have like continuity between them. So they both have their pros and cons. But in terms of this era of Robin, I think most of the books in this era, like in the letter columns before these books started, I think Denny O'Neil did say something along the lines of like, yeah, we're introducing these books and putting the logos on the books to say like this is one of one, or one of two, two of twos, because we've had a whole lot of crossovers and we want to get back to basics or whatever. So this was kind of a cool initiative that they had on their part, I think, at the time, especially now going back, because now you can go back to this era and look at all the books across the line and kind of, without too much investment, get a feel for what the characters are kind of like at the time, and still be able to read these one and done kind of books. And both books, especially that's the detective one we'll get to, feel more like, oh, this could have been like a Batman the Animated Series episode or something like that. Yeah. So we can get more into that, though, as we get into the book.
All right, before we get into our first book, we're going to take a quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to hit the done in ones or the one in dones, depending on which way you say it. But in this case, we're doing two and done or two and one and done. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
On your mark, get set, go for the Fire and Water Network Superman Virtual Run. Coming this October, join comic book fans and fellow Fire and Water Network listeners in a 5K run. Obviously, we can't all run together in the same place, but you can do this anywhere you want. You can run or even walk around your hometown, around the block, nature trails, or even a treadmill. You can make this race your own. We're doing this in conjunction with the official DC Comics Superman Virtual Run. This official virtual run comes with some cool Superman swag, and is helping raise money for charity. For our Fire and Water Network run, we're recommending running a 5K. However, anyone can participate by running or even just walking as little as 1 mile, or you can do 5K or 10K, your choice. For those participating, just pick any date in October to run. Many of us are targeting the week of October 18th through 24th, but any October date works. For more information and to register for the Fire and Water Network run, visit our Sign Up Genius page at fireandwaterpodcast.com/run2021. That's RUN2021. Once you're on the Sign Up Genius page, you'll need the access code to enter. The access code is simply the word JOY, all lowercase JOY. Now, there's no cost to join this Fire and Water Network run. However, we strongly encourage you to also register for the official DC Comics Superman Virtual Run on their website. It's a fun program that comes with great Superman Run perks. Their fee is $40 per individual, but remember, they are helping raise money for charity. So join us for this fun, healthy, and super heroic event in October. Remember, to participate, you can do as little as walking just 1 mile. For more details and to sign up, visit fireandwaterpodcast.com/run2021 and use the access code JOY. On your mark, get set, go!
All right, before we hear the synopsis for Robin 34, let's go to Mike'sAmazingWorld.com to learn all about the information of this comic. The cover date is October 1996, with an on-sale date of August 28th, 1996, and the cover price is $1.95. And the editor is the great Dennis J. O'Neil. This was polybagged with Over the Edge magazine. The writer is Chuck Dixon. The penciler is Jennifer Graves, which is new for us for this podcast. And the inker is John Dell III. The cover credits go to Mike Rowingo, and the inker being Terry Austin. Take it away, Terrence.
Robin 34, Situations and Comedies. Tim, Ari, Ives, and Kali attend a Shakespeare play entitled Macbeth on the Beach at Gotham Park to get some extra credit for their English class. The play is completely dull, and Tim spots 2 young men fighting over the trees in the dark. He slips away from his friends, who are arguing about the play, and stops the fight. The aggressor draws a gun, but Tim disarms him and tells the guy to go away. Tim drops the gun into a trash can, and suddenly Helena Bertinelli appears to warn Tim about wandering too close to her students. Tim knows that the encounter could have ended up in Helena discovering Tim's secret identity. He tries to sneak back to his friends, but he catches a glimpse of a car with 3 men inside, armed with heavy weapons and masks. Tim deduces that they are waiting for the play to finish to mug all the people. Tim starts looking for a payphone to dial 911, but he comes across with his friends, who stop Tim for a little while. Tim then knows that it is already too late to call the police, so he goes to the Redbird and takes his Robin suit. Robin sees the 3 thugs getting out of the car and jumps on them. The thugs start shooting at him, and they catch everyone's attention. Robin uses some batarangs to disarm 2 of them. The crowd then starts to beat the 2 unarmed thugs. The 3rd thug goes to hide in a nearby mobile restroom. Robin knocks the cabin down, and the thug comes out of it. He tries to escape at plain sight, and Robin can't risk being seen by Helena Bertinelli, because she might guess his secret identity, or Ariana might do the same. Luckily, Helena appears and knocks the thugs without the need to dress up as Huntress. Tim changes his clothes back and decides that it is time for him and his friends to leave. When they are leaving, Helena calls Tim and tells him that she knows who he is and that his outfit let her know all she needed. Tim thinks that she is talking about his Robin persona, but then she tells Tim that she recognizes him because of his school jacket as the boy behind the trees at the beginning of the story. Tim is relieved, and Ariana is jealous and curious of how Tim knew a woman that beautiful. After tonight, Tim understands why Bruce doesn't bother with a social life.
So let's just take a look at Robin 30. How about I said 31? Because the whole one thing now is it's probably going to drag me down here. I dig the cover for 34. It's not really, of course, we say it all the time, it's not really indicative of what is going on, although looks like he has a last poor York. I knew him well on the Bow staff, and Robin looks really menacing, crouched down here, and the penciler is Mike Rowingo, and I think I've said mistakenly a couple times, oh, this is the last Mike Rowingo cover we're going to get. I think he might actually have a couple more, but he doesn't do any interiors, anymore on it. I think it's a cool cover. I don't know if it's poster worthy or I'm going to slap it right on the wall or anything like that, but I think it's pretty cool. It gets the point of maybe the idea or the theme once you start realizing what's happening in the issues. So anyway, I'm rambling here. Oh, guys, what do you think about the cover? Let's start with Ryan.
This cover is pretty cool. I think for me, it's like the it's the colors. It's that like purple, curtain, and you can tell it's it's like that and what Robin has on the staff and the quote. So if you know anything about Shakespeare, you're like, well, what is this issue? This is going to be kind of a different story. So yeah, it's another one of these Robin covers that has just Robin on the cover, and I think those always kind of stand out to me. And you can't go wrong with the Ringo cover.
No, Terrence, what do you got, man?
I wonder how much Ringo knew about the issue that he was drawing the cover, and I wonder if maybe he had already had this image of Robin, and maybe he was like standing on like a rooftop or something, and then they're like, oh yeah, he's going to be at a Shakespeare play, and so then he was like, all right, well, just put a curtain behind him and stick a little skull on the staff or something like that, because like the skull's from Hamlet, but the play and the story's Macbeth and stuff like that. Or maybe they were like, yeah, who cares? He's like, I like drawing skulls, no one's going to care. You think, 30 years from now, a bunch of guys are going to be sitting around talking about this? No way, So I like the lighting of it, too, how the lights are lit underneath him, and the shadow is a really cool effect.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Well, let's dig into this one, and Surfer Joe is what I'm going to call this guy in the beginning of it. The little notes that I'm pulling here from DCFandom.com, it says the play that the boys attend is reference to William Shakespeare's Macbeth, and there were more references to Shakespeare plays, so they're kind of an amalgamation of a couple other ones that they're throwing in here. And I always we say it a lot with Dixon writing it, that he's throwing you into action, and sometimes like this in this first splash page, it kind of leaves you going like, what in the world? Like, oh, this must be a central character. He's got a full-on page, but he's in flip-flops, so I think it's sometimes Dixon kind of messing with us, going, all right, let's see if I can take the readers on this journey and find out, oh, they're at a play. And there was a play when I was in high school that they were calling it Hippie Stock Fest, and they were trying to be like hippies of the 60s or whatever, and do a different take on a play. And I forget what the play was, trying to modernize it up, and I'm thinking, that is such a dumb, stupid idea. And then I'm reading a comic book that's doing the very same thing, and I was like, huh, in 1993, I guess we were just a few years off from doing something like that.
Yeah, and I was thinking there has to be a story behind this. Like Chuck Dixon had to have seen something like this, or did it himself in high school or college, or there's something. This wasn't. I don't think Chuck just woke up one night and said Macbeth and then Surfers. Like, there has to be a backstory to this.
Yeah, and you could just hear like the dude bro speak from from this, and he kind of writes it that way a couple other little times, and I think we always talk about it being a palate cleanser issue, that sometimes those are some of our favorite ones, that we just come out of this crazy story. Like, we're not even really referencing Contagion or COVID or the Delta variant anymore in this. It's just them at the park, and it's the core list of characters with Ives and Ariana and Ives' girlfriend, her name's escaping me at the moment here, and them just going back and forth, and Tim just being really content and being at the area that he's in. It's almost would be like a pseudo Central Park type of thing. So what do you guys think of the landscape for this issue that Chuck is doing, that it's in one central location, you're in a park, and Tim has got to figure out how to maneuver the story through being Tim and Robin? Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a departure from your normal Batman dark nighttime Gotham City kind of thing. It's like, oh, he's in school, it's in the daytime, he's got to juggle being Robin and Tim Drake and figure out a mystery. It's actually very reminiscent to me of something you might see in like Batman Beyond, for example. It's almost like it foreshadowed, because plenty of episodes of that show are kind of like that, where he's like in school in the day and he's got to like juggle. It's very Spider-Man-esque, and Tim Drake is as well, because he's like the superhero that's in high school that has these issues that he's got to also be like, a superhero too. So, and having to like break away from the friends and solve a little mystery, like, it's a cool change. It's definitely a cool change of pace. It gives you an opportunity to see the characters in different situations you normally don't see them in, and not only Tim, but later in the story, you get to see Huntress, in her civilian persona, which you don't see that often as well.
Yeah, and I really like. Well, let's go to Terrence before I get to Ari. What did you think of the placement for this story?
I think Ryan hit the nail on the head. It feels like a TV show. It feels like a sitcom, or just one of those shows where they don't have a huge unlimited budget, so everything is just filmed in kind of one spot or one angle. And I feel like when you look at a comic book and you see an artist, you just know, like, oh, that's this person's art. When you read this, you just feel like this is just so Chuck Dixon, like, it's just got so, and I just feel like he had a really good time writing this, and like you say, it's like a palate cleanser for us reading it. It was probably a palate cleanser for him, just writing it. Like, he didn't have to look up like the history of Calcutta to make sure that it fit in the thing. Although I think that was a Doug Munch issue, but you know what I mean, or whatever it is, or Scotland or whatever it is. Like, he could just put it in the Gotham version of Central Park and just have some fun with it. And I also want to mention, before we move on, like, the take on Tim here is kind of interesting, because a little later on, once Chuck Dixon's not really writing Tim and it becomes more of a Jeff Johns thing, Tim becomes like the smartest guy who ever lived, like the smartest of all Robins, the smartest of, and I was always like, wait, and he's really cocky too about being the smartest. And this is more the Tim Drake that I know, where he's like, first starts with like, I don't want to be here, I'm bored. Like, like, I have to be here for homework. And it's Ari and Ives who are having the kind of quote unquote intellectual. I mean, it's intellectual for, kids' conversation on the merits of this play and all that, where if this was Jeff Johns, it would have been Tim Drake like analyzing it in some kind of logical Vulcan, super IQ way. Like even on page 3, the top panel, like Tim's body language, he's got his hand on his thing. He's like, he's so bored. He doesn't want to be there. And so he goes kind of off looking for some, hoping that something's going on. And it's Gotham, so there's always something horrible around every corner. That's the other thing with this is I'm like, Gotham is just like the worst place. Like you can't even go see a play in the park without like 5 major crimes happening.
Yeah, and I like the whole stick of him being bored, even on the top of 4, where he's got his hand to his head and Ari and Ives are like leaning in, and he's totally looking towards Ives as almost the, oh my God, please, like, I need out of both of these situations, and he gets the whole thing of like, oh hey, there's a couple people pushing over there. I'm going to go over here. This is the part of the story I really kind of like, of Tim figuring out how to get out, and we don't have to get him right in the Robin costume right away. And I always think it's really kind of cool. Like, okay, Tim is Robin, so we need him in a Gotham, high school red jacket that's got the yellow trim, so you still know this is our character, which, it's really kind of on the nose, but I kind of like those silly things. Something that I forgot, I had a note here that I wanted to mention before we started it, is Jennifer Graves is doing the art in this, and I'm not familiar with a lot of her work, and she doesn't have a whole lot of work to really speak for. She was an artist that worked in the comics industry as an occasional penciler from 1996 to the early 2000s. During the time that she worked in the comic books industry, she worked mainly for DC Comics. Her first published work was Showcase 93, issue 3. She continued to work on different titles, but she is probably known best for her work on Gotham Girls and Bad Girls. And I am not familiar with either one of those titles, so I'm kind of clicking on it as I'm talking. Yeah, I'm not recognizing this at all. Gotham Girls had 5 issues. It was a little mini-series. Came out October 2002 and ran from October 2002 to February 2003. Featured Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Batgirl, Catwoman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, were you aware of any of that, Terrence or Ryan?
I knew of Gotham Girls. It was kind of it was like a Gotham City Sirens precursor almost. It was more towards it was using the animated series characters, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cover right here. Yeah. Yep, you're absolutely right. So, real quick, what do you think about her work in this issue? And I think this is her only, before I say that, I believe this is her only Tim Drake appearance. Yeah. So unless she did something with Tim in the Showcase, I don't think so. That was basically just a Birds of Prey issue she did. So what do you think about her work on the Robin 34, basically? Terrence.
It's adequate. If you're a fan of the TV show News Radio, you get her adequate quantity is, but it's not great. It didn't blow me away. There's no real poster-worthy panels, but yet there's nothing awful or terrible that takes me out of the story. It's pretty consistent. And it's a good, it's not too realistic, but it's not too cartoony either. It's very much kind of in that zone of like the animated series kind of, I guess. So, but yeah, it did the job.
Brian?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's interesting. I think it kind of perfectly supposed plainness of the art fits the plainness of the story, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I actually think it's a really good compliment to it because it is very realistic. Like this could be shot like as a episode of a TV show or like a
Riverdale.
90s Riverdale kind of thing. Yeah, like without any sort of special effects budget or something. Like nothing outlandish happens. This isn't like Asbats and like crazy guys in suits and flamethrowers and explosions. Like it's literally like Robin stopping some dudes with guns at like a play in the park, and the most outlandish thing is Robin himself. So in that regard, like I think the art really, I don't know, it really kind of sells that more realistic spin, a grounded story, and it makes the full package kind of work. And then you add like the Adrian Roy colors on top of it. That's like your unifying thing that across most of these 90s Batman books that just kind of like just makes it all work.
Every time we mention Adrian Roy, I think she is just one of the unsung heroes in DC when people are mentioning creators back in this day, and you rightfully so. You go to the Chuck Dixons and Norm Brayfogels, but her colors just in any book that she's a part of are always stellar. There's no part that you're ever going, man, who colored this book? Even if the art isn't overly stellar, like we always talk, like sometimes an inker can really help out a pencilist or really hurt a pencilist. I think the same thing could be said for the colorist too, and her colors are always completely solid. Tim gets drawn into the woods and taking down this dude in the purple bandana, and Dixon lets Tim not have to be the bumbling, like, oh, golly gee, how am I going to fight this guy? He's not having to worry about anybody else. He's really thinks he's really kind of secluded and can really disarm this guy without a whole lot of effort. He is usually around somebody that he can't, and he even makes mention here of, when Helena shows up, it's kind of like, oh, whoops, I know who she is. She doesn't know who I am. But apparently in Gotham City, if you find a gun, you can just throw it in a trash can, and then the gun collection service will come and empty your trash cans. So I thought that was kind of funny that Dixon
probably related to the Batmobile parachute pickup service that you see in the 60s TV show.
Right. I thought that was really funny. But that was kind of a pleasant surprise that she's in here, that I think Dixon really is kind of a fan of the Huntress and is trying to find different ways to continually bring her into make her part of Tim Drake's world more than she's part of Bruce Wayne Batman's world. So what do you guys think of the inclusion of the Huntress in this story, and how do you think she is utilized in this? Terrence?
I hit on that same thing you did, Rob. Like, he's just going to put the gun in the garbage can? Like, how does that work? And then on page 7 is when you first see her, and she's wearing a big name tag that says, hello, my name is Miss Bertinelli. And so for fans, it's kind of like a cool thing where you're like, oh, hey, that's the Huntress. Oh, yeah, that's right. She's a school teacher. I think it's cool. My one knock on the writing, and by the way, the garbage can doesn't even have like a lid or anything. Like, it's just sitting on so it would literally just be sitting on the top of like.
It's not like a Sharps container that, I had to give myself insulin. I got to put it in this.
It's like
proper
out in the clear that Georgia can come by and just eat.
It's like the garbage can that Oscar the Grouch lives in, but without the lid and the puppet. So my one knock is like, there's this whole thing where Tim's like, oh, she could know who I am, find my identity. Like how? Like how would you, like, even if he said like, oh, hey, I'm Robin. Like, she doesn't know his name or anything. Like, I mean, I guess she could like try to like investigate or go find his teacher or figure. Well, like
if he's in the area and Robin's in the area and like, she's not that. She's
it's a
intuitive.
Bit of a stretch. Yeah. But like I've said this before on the podcast, but my favorite thing with the Justice League Unlimited, when Lex Luthor and
I love that.
Wally West switch places, and he's the Flash, and he goes to the bathroom with the mask. He's like, I can now finally see the identity of the Flash, and he takes off the mask and he looks in the mirror.
Who
and he's
is
like,
this?
I have no idea who this guy is. Same thing. If he could say to her, I'm Robin, and she'd be like, okay, you got a nice jacket. You go to Gotham High with 400 other kids, so
yeah.
I was surprised that Dixon was able to fit in a guest appearance in a 101 and do it pretty well. So yeah, I did like it.
And I like it that this must be, because she at some point says, where's your teacher, or what, I know the school you're going to. So apparently this is something that's, Gotham has a lot of boroughs, evidently, and there's more than just one school out here. Thought that was a little different, rather than going, it's not, she's pulling
the exact same place.
Same place, convenient, not pulling him to the side and goes, what would Bruce say if, you doing such and such. Mm-hmm. So I like that there's this anonymity built into the universe, that she happens to be there just because there's this event going on.
But that's also tied into her job, which
right.
I don't think you get a ton of opportunities to see her do that during the day. It's usually, I'm Huntress at night. Like, don't you want to read about Huntress at night? And just the fact that this story takes place in the day, like, it makes sense to slot her in there. And maybe that was a way for Chuck Dixon to kind of, because that's the thing. It's like, a lot of times you'll read stories like this and be like, dude, use the characters. Like, this is a daytime story, and Helena Bertinelli is a teacher. Why wouldn't she be in this story? But Chuck Dixon's the kind of writer where normally he'll he'll think of connections like that and make the stories work in that way.
Yeah. One of my favorite characters in this isn't actually Tim. It's the way they use Ives in this. I mean, we don't get a lot of use of the secondary characters, third and, et cetera, et cetera. But just his conversation back and forth with Ari is actually really kind of made the story interesting, especially on a few pages where Tim is finally dressed up as Robin to go figure out what's going on. And I think the cool thing about that is, other than probably like Seduction of the Gun or something like that, this is one of the few books where the main hero, the superhero, is not in his superhero costume you can't even say that Robin is in the book 50%. I mean, Tim is. So I think that's really kind of cool that Dixon has established all these other characters that for a couple pages, Tim isn't even on the page, that you could totally rely on Ives and Ari.
We've talked about Windows 95 was it just the last episode?
Just the last episode,
and
yeah.
And then here we get another little reference to that where Ives is talking about things he doesn't want to change, or things he doesn't like. It's like, I don't like the new guy playing James Bond. I don't like the new Bible. I don't like Curtains 95. It's funny that's like,
funny.
Maybe they got a note like, you can't say Windows 95, and he's like, okay, well, now we have to say Curtains.
Isn't that funny though?
They
Curtains
did just
and
say
Windows.
They said Windows in the last book, so I don't know if like there was a legal thing or if they just wanted to make it funny. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. Like when I read that about, I don't like the new James Bond. I'm like, I liked Pierce Brosnan. That was one of my favorite. Aside from Sean Connery, he's like my second favorite James Bond. I'm like,
but did people like him back then? People never like the things that change at the era that they change in. It takes a while for people to warm up to stuff.
Terrence, what are your thoughts on Ives?
I like it, and what I like too is that when Tim disappears, there's like Ari seems to always be like, "Hey, where were you? Where did you go? Like, what? Who are you? Who's that pretty girl you were? That pretty teacher you were talking to? You're kind of planting.
He's
the
always
seeds.
concerned about that. Like,
yeah, for her to be suspicious or to be like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And then that's just going to lead into more stuff when Stephanie Brown sort of becomes more of a love interest with him.
Well, she saw him. She saw her at a funeral, and he was like,
Exactly. What I like, if you look on page 9, the last panel, and this is something you didn't quite always see in comics, like what the kids are wearing is so mid-90s.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to get into this. There's some good stuff in this.
I didn't
issue.
quite dress quite like that because I was a little bit older at this point, and I was a little like fashion dull. But this looked just like how my younger brother dressed then. He would have been like junior, senior in high school.
Like with the giant T-shirt.
The giant T-shirt, the baggy pant, all that. And I was watching a video of the guy in Oasis, so Noel Gallagher.
Yep.
And he says, right about this time period, he's like, whenever I see myself in this time, it was like in today's time, but he was talking about the mid-90s. He's like, whenever I see myself in the mid-90s, I always look like I'm wearing someone else's clothes. And the guy whose clothes I'm wearing was like way taller and bigger than me because they don't really fit. And that's how all these guys look. Like the clothes are so oversized. And I remember that my brother wore these like skateboarder jeans that like literally the leg you could have fit like 3 people in one leg of these jeans, and it's just so funny to see that here. But Tim is drawn kind of like Tim could have been, he looks like he's stepped right out of Happy Days or like a 50s Archie's comic or something. He's pretty classic, but that's
funny that you say that because coming out of Archie, that Ari kind of looks like Betty or Veronica.
Veronica was the
brunette. Yeah. Just kind of moving through the book here, we've got the sequence with Robin, which I think is drawn very well. There's some fluidity, I haven't said that in a while, in the acrobatics that Tim is doing to disarm the guys here. And I like the chase through the crowd, I thought was done really well. And just nitpicking here on 14 when Robin throws the Ara Shuriken to hit the bad guys. It says 2 down. A batarang actually hits the guy in the back instead of the R, which trying to pull.
I missed that, but good catch there. Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought
it's a transforming Robin rang.
While it was in midair, Superboy Prime punched the
Mid-panel.
walls of the universe.
Or it's a sign that the universe is about to collapse too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Something's going sideways.
Wait,
The
but he's got an R. He's got an R on in the hand, and then a batarang on the head. On another guy, like one guy has the R at the bottom of the panel.
Oh, the R's in his hand. If you look, see the R's like, that's what you're saying.
So
yeah.
the question is, where did the batarang come from?
I actually think, all right, this is like uber geeky. So on the top of page 14 where he's throwing the R, if you look in his...
He's got a batarang that's not colored all the way.
That's not colored. It's colored yellow like the background, so it looks like he's holding a banana. But that really should have been the batarang. Yeah.
Didn't this kind of happen in one of the those last issues of Legacy where like Nightwing was doing stuff with... And it was hard to follow because the coloring wasn't matching.
Yeah.
I think it was also batarang related.
All right, take back everything you said about Andrea Roy earlier, Rob.
Yeah.
It might have been like weird coloring rules too, like or things that didn't translate or didn't fully, cross over when they did the coloring or something.
Yeah.
That's a good catch. You were telling me good catch, and then to find out, no, he did have a batarang the whole entire time, Rob. Latter part of this book here, I think it's really kind of comical that Robin knocks over an outhouse, a porta potty with the guy in it, which is really kind of funny. You see people making the whole stinky face, which is really kind of...
Because I know they did stuff like this in the movie Jackass, if you've seen that, where they had it on bungee cords and stuff. But a friend of mine back in the 90s went to a New York Jets football game at Giant Stadium. Why the Jets played at Giant Stadium is the whole thing. And they were playing the Miami Dolphins, and there was a guy like wearing a Miami Dolphins jacket and hat and stuff. He was a Dolphins fan, and he went in to use the porta potty in the parking lot, and the Jets fans went over and flipped over the porta potty on the Dolphins fan in the parking lot. And they said the guy came out and he was just covered in the stuff that's in there. Like that was harsh. Yeah,
that'd be horrible. I'm done.
Yeah, but Robin does it to this guy here. Which, he is shooting at him, so, but still, it's pretty nasty.
And I like it's not that Robin or the Huntress that delivers the blow that knocks out our assailant shotgun toting. It's none other than Ari, which I thought was... Oh, no, excuse me, it is Helena. It is Helena, which was actually kind of funny. I thought it was Ari. All you see is the yellow hand coming up there if I would have looked down. So I thought that was kind of cool that it's... Helena, now that I'm backtracking out of it, and Ari's in the last couple panels of 19.
Hey, can I get super geeky on you? Get all teachery on you? So these guys are trying to rob the money from the ticket sales, but actually, back in Shakespeare's time, you would pay. You wouldn't have tickets; you just pay directly, and they had a box that had like a slit in the top, and when you went in, you'd put your money, your coins into the box, and then they would take the box and lock it in a special office during the play so no one could steal it. So that's where the term like box office comes from, even today when they talk about the box office. So I thought Dixon might put something in there about them like stealing the box office or something like that, but he probably had it and then just like left it out or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's where that all comes from. Yeah.
On 19, where Ives' girlfriend is saying, I mean, who even believes in this Batman and Robin
I know
tabloid junk? It's still that they're still urban legends.
Yeah.
Apparently this time, and even throwing the Madonna reference in there, I thought was kind of cool to kind of just in one line, Dixon is still seeding the universe of like not everybody really is aware of Batman and
that
Robin.
Specific point a thing that got reintroduced with 0 Year?
I think so, that they went back and made them
urban
Batman
legend.
is
Urban
more.
legend, yeah.
I believe that was a specific bullet point. Like there was like a whole 0 Year like fact checklist thing that DC had where it was like showed all the continuity and all the characters and some bullet points. And I'm pretty sure for Batman it was like he doesn't know. I think the two that I remember the most was like that he does not know who killed his parents because before he knew that Joe Chill did. But I think they got rid of Joe Chill. Batman doesn't know who killed his parents. Right. And Batman is still seen as a myth, like an urban legend. I think that was definitely two things that got reestablished as part of the post Nightfall 0 hour, 0 year, not 0 year, 0 hour stuff.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. So the end of this issues, like we had talked in the synopsis, Terrence read is Helena coming up to him like, I thought I recognized you. And Tim has that inner monologue of, oh, crap, she recognizes me. It's more of the, hey, I recognize the jacket and, your school and everything else like that. I like that it ends with Tim kind of coming to realize, so this is why Bruce really doesn't have much of a social life. Just like this one instance of him trying to dodge his girlfriend, keep his group safe, and still having to be a crime fighter, and also witnessing Helena all in the same place. He's got a lot of different lines he's trying not to get crossed. And if we're talking about the whole one of one, when you get to the last page, it says, watch this space, where the new thing is going to be starting up for DC, the Final Night checklist, and it lists like 15 books of like, enjoy this one of one, because the next issue of Robin, we're going into another crossover. So this didn't last really long. Final thoughts or anything else that we may have kind of skipped over? Let's start with Terrence.
Yeah, I wondered at the end if Miss Bertinelli here, and I think I remember from the comics too, like she taught at like a really rough school that was, really economically disadvantaged and a lot of gangs, and Tim was going to like the preppy kind of suburbs, affluent school. But I wonder at the end if she kind of knew that it was Robin and she's messing with him a little bit, because even if she knew it was Robin, she's not going to out him right there in front of like everybody. Like that's just going to piss off Batman. Like he could be like, well, you're the huntress,
right.
So like maybe she kind of knows that that's Robin and is sort of, like, I know who you are. You're the guy from before at the tree, So I don't think we ever got a resolution on this. I don't think this issue was ever referenced again, but you could interpret the ending, I think, two different ways there.
Yeah, I think it could. Yeah. Ryan.
I'm just jealous of on the final page that this guy's got an email hoodie, and when I say email, I'm not. It's not. It's
Yeah.
E-MALE, and I'm just I don't know. I'm enamored with this shirt. I'm like, is that a 90s? I was trying to look it up. I was like, was this a thing in the 90s, or is that just some kind of funny thing? Like email is kind of new in that time, and that would be a funny shirt that somebody came up with. Like, I didn't see any 90s shirt, retro shirt that says that, so I don't know.
I was looking, too. I was really hoping when you said that, I was looking like, oh, maybe you found something.
Yeah, I don't remember that either, but I do remember, there was a lot of novelty around this new thing, email. There was that movie with Tom Hanks, You've Got Mail, and Mission Impossible, one of them, Tom Cruise was using email for the first time and stuff. It was, there was a lot of novelty to it, but I don't remember that at all.
Well, for the lack of our memory, and it's probably not, I did find an email store online, which is E-MALE store. So maybe I'll do a little more perusing.
Yeah, be careful searching up for like stuff with mail in it online.
Yeah.
You might get a knock at your door in 45 minutes. Is Rob here?
Oh, you know what? You know what? If you go to YouTube, there is a band called E-Mail, and they have a song called "We Are Email."
There's also a men's clothing outlet that has $5,000 slipper sneaker things, like sandals, and I'm very confused. I don't know if it's a scam. Sounds like it.
Well, it's the internet. It's probably real. So get on your Curtains 95 and we'll sort it out. So while you guys are digging through Curtains 95, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to look at Detective Comics 704. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, a new monthly show chronicling the adventures of the JLI era by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. We'll be going issue by issue in release order, tackling the core Justice League title, Justice League Europe, and the quarterly book. Along the way, we'll take time out for special episodes covering various spin-offs, cartoon appearances, the infamous TV pilot, and much more. So join me in an ever-changing roster of guest hosts as we celebrate your favorite JLI members, such as
Martian Manhunter,
Batman,
Dr. Fate,
Black Canary,
Fire,
Ice,
Maxwell Lord,
Oberon,
Captain Marvel,
Rocket Red,
Captain Atom,
Mr. Miracle,
Guy Gardner,
Booster Gold,
Blue Beetle,
Nort,
and many, many more. Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, part of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Want to make something of it?
And once again, we'll go to Mike'sAmazingWorld.com, and this time around for Detective Comics 704. The cover date is December 1996, with an on-sale date of October 16, 1996, and the cover price being $1.95. The editor is Scott Peterson. The writer is, of course, Chuck Dixon. The penciler is Graham Nolan. The inker is Tom Palmer. The letterist is John Costanza. The colorist is Gloria Vasquez. And the cover credits go to Graham Nolan. And, of course, the inker is Kevin Nolan. And now, Ryan, take it away for Detective Comics 704.
Detective Comics 704, Rocket Scientist. Dieter Gans was an unlucky thief who spent most of his early years in Blackgate Penitentiary for little robberies that leave him no profit at all. After 10 years in Blackgate, he decides that when he goes out, he starts anew. Honest work for honest money. Unlucky as he is, two criminals approach him and lure him into a jewelry robbery. When Gans realizes what it was all about, it was too late, and he finds himself driving the thug's car with the police chasing them. Batman knew that one of the thieves was a man named Cameron Nash, and that he was also a ruthless killer. He and Robin listened to the police radio and knew where the thieves were going. They started to chase them, but the thieves escaped using a water conduit. Batman knew where that conduit will take them, and he and Robin went to the place. The thieves find themselves facing Batman at the place that Batman has told Robin. The three thieves started to run and entered an industrial laundry. There, Batman managed to capture Nash. The second thief tried to hide inside a dryer, but was caught inside it and spinning helpless. Batman tried to catch Gans, but he accidentally fell into a pile of clothes and was able to escape from Batman and Robin. When all that was over, Batman told Robin not to worry about the thug that escaped, because that kind of man always appears in another hit, and so they might catch him the next time he appears. Nevertheless, Dieter Gans decided to stick to his honest job as an electronic artifacts repairman and never again committed another crime.
Detective Comics 704. Now, out of the two covers, if one of these are going to be poster-worthy, back in the day at your local Walmart, I love the crap out of this cover. Dixon, I love the crap out of it. Dixon, Nolan, Palmer on the front cover here. I think this is a great shot of Batman. I vividly remember this cover when I had bought it back in the day, and every time I think about No Man's Land, I always associate this cover as being an image of No Man's Land. I'm always going, oh, what was that issue in No Man's Land with Batman, half in shadow, and you could just basically see his bodysuit, but his, I love this image, and I constantly think it's part of No Man's Land. Every now and then I'll be flipping through, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm missing an issue from No Man's Land, and I'm always searching for this one, and it's not a No Man's Land, it's a one of one. So now you know how I feel about the cover. Ryan, what do you think about it?
Who did the cover? Did we have the cover credits?
Yeah, the cover credits on this one go to Graham Nolan, the inker.
It is
by
Nolan.
Kevin
okay.
Nolan, yeah.
Because I couldn't tell. It didn't look obviously Nolan to me. But no, this is definitely like an all-timer type of cover for this era of Batman, for sure. Like the rooftop, the silhouette, the yellow oval, the belt,
bats in the background.
Exactly. The bats in the background, and that logo, that specific Batman logo is just that has the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin font.
Hashtag yellow oval.
I know. I mean, it's all just really good stuff, and I couldn't be happier about it. And it's got little Easter eggs, like even on the little Gotham Gazette newspaper, you've got the little Graham Nolan and Kevin Nolan caricatures. So it's good.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till I started doing the homework for it, and I saw that on the notes on the DC Fandom that they were listed as they even drew themselves on the front cover, and I was like, what? So yeah, I thought that was really pretty cool. Terrence, what do you think about the cover?
Yeah, I was thinking when Rob throws it to me, I'm going to say poster worthy, and you beat me to poster worthy there. Yeah, the Gotham Gazette's cool. It's definitely Graham Nolan is the one who drew it because Kevin Nolan looks like a tired, beat up 80-year-old just miscreant. And the headline says penciler loses game for the Gotham Knights, and then has Graham Nolan underneath it. And then for Kevin Nolan it says inker convicted for gratuitous alterations. So that's pretty hilarious. I actually have two versions of this. I've got the regular cover, and then I've got the variant that has Batman wearing an email hoodie. But no.
For a brief moment, I was like, there's a variant. So I started looking through. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Terrence is just a jerk this evening.
It was a freebie in the email magazine.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, speaking of...
You only had 3 issues because people were confused that, like, it wasn't, like, electronic mail. It was, like, email, and, it was a bad joke. But.
Yeah. Robin was... Well, I forgot to mention, Robin was polybagged with Guess What magazine. That's right, folks. On the Edge. So if you bought the last issue, I believe, of Batman... Now getting Robin, you've got 2 issues of On the Edge magazine. I think recently... Terrence, didn't you find one in a comic shop in the last month or so?
Did you put that on YouTube? Was it on your
I believe I can't remember now if it was in the... I can't remember. I sent you guys a picture of it.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember if I put that in the YouTube video or not. But it was in the store, that I went to, and they had it polybagged. And I left it there. I didn't buy it. So if somebody really wants it, they can get it.
All right, this one, Ryan had said it earlier. Upon the first read on this, I thoroughly enjoyed this story. This, you could have transposed or transferred this right over to the Batman animated series. This kind of reminds me of, I think, the episode The Man Who Killed
Joker.
Batman.
I was going to say Joker's Favor. But
Joker's Favor, yeah.
The Man Who Killed Batman's a good one, too. More of these, like, everyman, like, the story, like, focuses on, like, some everyman or some, like, criminal that's, like, not that great or whatever, that is just or some person that gets roped up in other criminal activity of some sort, and they're your eyes into window into the story, and you follow them, and then the action and the Batman and the Robin stuff happens around it. And the fact that, like, that's what this story is like, and the fact that it is a one and done issue definitely makes me think of those two, for sure, those 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series.
Dixon is really leaning into the slapstickiness of our bumbling would-be, robber thief that just cannot get a single thing. He's trying to rob a liquor store. He's got the bag over his head. He probably came from a Saints game back in the early 80s, 90s where they couldn't win a game, and tries to rob the liquor store and ends up getting half boot stomped and gets caught by the police, and they're mocking him for it, and even just going a little bit farther when he's painting his face red. He starts being overcome by the paint fumes and what the paint starts doing to him, and has to get saved by the attendee. It was very comical. Talking about Dixon always starting with action, the Dixon starting with humor. He doesn't do that quite often. So, mentioned palate cleanser a couple times. This was a really nice, fresh way to start a Batman comic that's really completely different from anything that we've read. If you've been reading all these stories in the last 2 years, this was fun for me. So, what did you guys think of the opening of this? Let's start with Terrence.
Kind of like you, Rob, both issues, the Robin and the Detective Comics, I did not remember, what was in them. So it was actually kind of fun rereading them. They were like fresh new comics. I love the beginning. I love everything about this issue. And I like how it didn't have to say like 5 years ago or 10 years ago so much. It's the clothing that sets it, like late 60s, early 70s kind of. I like that. And I feel like Chuck Dixon was having a lot of fun with the language. I could see him just writing this because instead of, like here on page 3, he says, talking about like spray painting his face. It says, eschewing his shopping bag disguise, he thought he'd spray paint his face. The advantages in increased viewing area were canceled out by the disadvantages of toxicity. Like, that's just, instead of just saying oh, he choked, I think Chuck was having a lot of fun with that. And what I really liked too, is how each bumbling dumb thing he does was trying to fix the one from the past. Like, he wore the bag didn't work, so now to fix that, he does the spray paint, but then that doesn't work. And then the next was he just wore like something over his face, like a nylon stocking.
Stocking, yeah.
But then he forgot about the note. Like it's I don't know. I just thought it was really good, and I like that whole like. Well, I think by page 5, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go straight, and Dixon writes here, and that's where our story begins. And like, oh, there's no way something's gonna happen here. So all around, I love this issue, but the beginning is great.
Ryan,
yeah, like I was saying, it's like an opening. It's normally you would open up a Dixon issue like this and you would get like a 1-page action splash page or something, but the fact that it's like this long, captioned intro, you get to reading it and you're like, oh, they're setting this character up. Like you get a lot of information pretty fast to know like this guy's going to be like the star of the show, and I can't wait to see how this is going to actually intersect with Batman.
I like when we start moving into Batman and Robin, like very, very limited. Like they don't show up till, thanks for numbering the pages on this
6.
one. This is 6, yeah. They show up on page 6, and they don't show up again till page 11 as the next time Batman and Robin appear in the issue. You get a brief little sequence of them in the Batcave. Alfred's kind of playing a little bit with Batman and Robin. Tim's at the computer. Very typical of what you expect of Batman and Robin. And again, Dixon has other things in mind. It's more of these group of individuals and our bumbling crook. Is he going to stay in the straight and narrow? And all he's trying to do is just survive, and this guy cannot help but wind up somewhere. Cameron Nash is the big bad that Batman and Robin are looking out for. And Dieter, I think that's how we landed on saying his name, is trying so hard to get out of this car and just wants to be left alone. And his bumblingness is going to cause all of this just to go completely sideways. So my big question is, once Batman and Robin arrive on the scene, how did you guys feel of Dixon really making Batman and Robin secondary to the story and letting somebody else really be the focal point of this issue of Detective Comics? Ryan,
I kind of wonder in the back of my head if part of it is this urban legend, whispers angle, where it's more like the people are doing stuff in Gotham, and then when Batman and his allies show up, it's like a big deal, and it feels that way in the story. You read the characters are like, okay, whenever Batman does show up, they're gonna get stuff done, So it makes their moments more impactful, and when they do show up, it is really cool, and it's great Batman and Robin stuff.
A little bit of humor that he allows Robin to have, where it's almost like, oh, we're going the complete opposite direction, and Batman zips the car around. That's a great little sequence there on page 11 when they show up, and Robin's like, you could warn a guy, which I thought that was really kind of funny. And Batman says, I'll make a note of that, and even gives Batman the little bit of the joke there.
Yeah,
just kind of keeping to the theme. I dug that. Terrence, you have anything on this particular sequence of just Batman and Robin's usage?
Yeah, this was pretty par for the course at Detective at this time with Dixon. Now, we didn't really see it the last couple issues with the Contagion and the Legacy storylines, but pretty much, Dixon was writing Detective Comics as a Batman and Robin book, so Tim Drake was always in this. This is why I keep bugging Rob, like, you got to include that issue of Detective. You got to include that issue of Detective. And the GCPD, it was a huge part of the book. So not that Batman was always a background character in it, but it always focused on other people, whether it was Bullock or Montonio or Commissioner Gordon and Sari Essen. And the mayor of Gotham has always been a bad guy to some way. It's kind of what you would see at Detective at this time, but it's more so in this issue. But I think Dixon does such a great job of setting up this guy in the beginning and actually making you sympathize with him. Yeah. And his nickname we haven't mentioned was Al Gabone, which they don't really, I guess it just because it sounds silly or something. I'm not really sure how the legend of Al Gabone, you're kind of rooting for this guy. You're kind of actually hoping Batman doesn't catch him, or if he does, like how's Batman going to realize that he didn't know this was a robbery, or how's Batman going to know that he's not really the getaway driver? How's this going to end? And it's really well done, and it keeps you hooked and engaged in the story.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing. At first, I was like, Dixon is not building that into Batman's detective skill, not I should say skills, but not letting Batman in on it to where
the reader
Robin's,
knows more than Batman does.
Yeah, that he's got to tell Robin like, oh, this type of criminal, we're going to pick him up later, as opposed to, well, old chum Dieter, he's been needed a break, and I knew, he was clean and da-da-da-da. So I kind of like that Batman, it's very rare to say that Batman just assumes somebody like this, we're going to catch him, and then we'll be able to tie these pieces together. So you do get the quote-unquote bad guy gets to get away, but he literally was not the bad guy of the story anymore. Because I was waiting for the moment where, okay, he ends up having the bag of cash, the guys get taken in, and then Batman finds him 2 hours later in his house, and you just couldn't help yourself. So I like that this ended on a happy note.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this story that keeps you engaged. Like when you read Legacy or you read Contagion, like Batman's gonna figure out the cure or whatever, and everything will be okay. Robin's not gonna die because DC doesn't kill Robins, but
they do, but then they bring it back.
But they bring it back. Yeah,
there was no 900 number at the end of the issue, so he's gonna be okay. But you kind of know, so it's kind of fun to read. But in the end, like, all right, Batman's gonna save the day. But this, in the middle of this, you have no idea. You don't know if he's gonna get away. Batman will realize what's going on, or it ends with him sitting in a jail cell, Al Capone once again in jail, wrong side of everything. I was actually more suspenseful of like what's going to happen to Al Capone than I was for Legacy and the whole world's in jeopardy. Like, yeah, Batman, he'll fix it. He'll be okay.
Yeah, and I like the end of it. By the time we get to a laundry mat, where I got a very killing jokes wrong, a more Batman 89 vibe out of it. Like there's the vat of chemicals or whatever's going on.
Right.
So where they're running around the scaffolding of the girders up at the top, where Dieter falls over and lands in the laundry pit, you kind of have that suspense of like, oh, what's going to happen to the guy? Is he going to land in a vat of acid, or is he going to land in the chemicals or whatever's going on? And that's the thing that's going to allow him to escape and not be seen, and Batman kind of gloss over it, which works, but everybody else gets caught. One guy gets caught in the dryer that Robin has a little bit of fun with. You kind of see him getting flipped around in here, but just the use of the shadows and Batman's cape, and again, like you said, Ryan, that you get that urban legend kind of vibe as far as the point of view for the criminals. When they're looking at Batman and Robin, you really don't see them. It's a lot of capes. It's half faces. So, and even when they're landing back in the Batmobile, I love that shot.
So good.
You don't really see much of Batman, but you see more of Robin. The Batmobile looks great. So yeah, this I think this issue ends very, very strong. And again, with Graham Nolan doing the artwork in this, it's a beautiful issue to look at, especially after having just come off such a large, almost 2-year story that they were doing in comics. So I can't say.
Can I say, Rob, the art? I absolutely love the way they draw Batman and Robin inside the Batmobile, and how the lights of like the panels and stuff are illuminating their faces. Oh man, I could look at that stuff all day.
Even just like the Batmobile on page 15, when I got a Batman Arkham City vibe where you're driving through the sewers and stuff like that at one point. But just seeing the wheel and the little bit of the water that's on the wheel well, and just the city in the background and the cars going through the sewer, that type of stuff where we always talk about sometimes like animals and cars, they don't translate really well.
You see a lot of like fighting, like character fight scenes, but like having like vehicle chases and stuff is not as common. Yeah, in this, and this was a cool era for that, when you have like the train car in Nightfall, and you
Nightfall,
have and the redesigned 2000s almost late 90s, 2000s Batmobile is a really cool redesign. And it's another one that's like hard to draw and it kind of complex looking. So having that in a chase sequence in a book is really cool.
Yeah. I want to steal something from Lauer, spelled like lower, on his show. If you're not listening to it, go check it out, Batman Book Club. You can hear our very own Ryan Haas and Justin Kowalski. I just finished their Batman 89 episode, which I think he's a few past that. I'm a little behind on my podcast listening. But anyway, something he always ends with is like, what's a favorite panel or a favorite sequence? I want to steal his favorite panel. And I already mentioned it. I think the cars, especially when they're down in the sewer, I really like page 15. As great as Nolan's art is, I think there's just something really cool about the use of the Batmobile. Actually, I take that back.
There's a lot of cars in this issue.
I like the sequence on 11 where the Batmobile is doing the 180, where the little joke for Batman and Robin is. I think that's... Because it's, like we've talked about it before, it's very easy to go, oh, the cars kind of look wonky. But like you said, Ryan, cars and vehicles are constantly in this issue, and they're not chinsed out at all. Do you guys have anything? Just want to point out that, hey, this is a really cool moment.
I think we already touched on it, but yeah, like the couple of shots of Bat, like on 17 where you have like the shadow of the Bat, like that is, like, again, the whole urban legend thing, that's great with the smoke and the cars and people running. It's fantastic. That and the next page after that on 18 where like the framing is so good where it's a shot of Batman and Robin in the background coming after the guy but in the foreground you see like a cola can and people's feet running. Like that's really cool. Like that's not the kind of thing I think of when I think of regular run of the mill comic book art, right?
Yeah,
and then you do get cool things like the way that the silhouettes are drawn when they land back in the Batmobile. It's just really well done to get that vibe.
And that same one where Dieter is getting just about getting caught in the rope. I didn't notice that Batman is behind him in the panel getting ready to throw a batarang. I didn't pick that up on the first read through. Terrence, you got any favorite parts in this?
There's just enough humor between Batman and Robin where it's good, but it's not like they're not being ridiculous. It doesn't border into absurdity. But like on page 16, when Batman mentions where the conduit comes out of, and Robin's like, you know where every conduit comes out of? And Batman goes, I don't call it my city just because I live here. And he's got sort of like a smirk on his face. It's not a full-on like, ha-ha, zinged you, Robin. But, it's kind of like that dry humor, kind of more like the Val Kilmer kind of Batman kind of thing. And then later on where Robin... I don't have a page number for it. It's weird. Some of these pages are numbered and some aren't. But the second to last page, where like the guy is in the diapers, and Robin's like pointing to it, and guess who decided to hide in the dryer? And so it's just enough that I liked it. I think everything about this issue is good, and I love sort of the twist ending where he's like, I finally found you, and he looks up, and then it's just someone who's found his electronics. It's called D's Electronics he's working, so I'm assuming that's him, that he owns his own repair shop now. So, it's a great, fun little issue. And it probably, from cover to end, it probably only takes you like less than 10 minutes to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
this was a quick read, and I was disappointed it wasn't a little bit longer. Like, I could have easily read another 10, 15 pages because I was having such a good time with it. I think it's cool. A little bit of the Anton First, which you're usually pretty good, Terrence, of pointing out on 17 at Mundy Laundry Company. That little spot there looks like something that we've seen in Batman 89, but just a fun issue.
And that's also in the background in the page 3 of the Robin issue, Robin 34. You can see like the background of the city in the park too. Yeah.
So, like, two fun issues. If I was picking one over the other, I got to go with 704. If you just want an issue just to pick up, grab, I'm sure it's on DC Universe.
Both of these I've read on DC Universe Infinite, Yeah,
Infinite. So, two fun issues and a nice way to, I keep saying palate cleanser in this episode, but to really kind of shake the dust off of Legacy and move into some other stories that are coming up. And again, We're going to be talking about another crossover. I'm going to find a cool way to get through that. But before we get there, we have a special issue coming out. So we do have a guest, hopefully on tap. I've got to go back through and get back with him. So we're going to leave the Robin book, and I'm going to say it here, World's Finest 3 is going to be the next thing that we're going to cover. I've been dying to read this. I have never read World's Finest 3.
It's going to be something, I think.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it, and I know how our shows go. That's probably definitely going to be a two-parter, because they're more like the prestige format type book. So,
and it's the return of Tom Grummett, right?
Yeah, return of Tom Grummett. So we've got hopefully a loyal, and hopefully I know he is, a loyal BOFer. You've probably heard him on different shows, so I won't say here just in case that doesn't happen, but I think we've got Garrett involved, so that's what's coming up next on the show. So that was one I've definitely been wanting to get to. So just final thoughts. I think we've probably pretty much already said it through these. I dug these 2 issues, and I can't say enough good things about it, but definitely 704 was the highlight for this. So let's close it out with Ryan, and in closing out, plug anything that you got going on outside of the Drake.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I thought these 2 were really good examples of DC's new one and done type issues of the era. I think we've kind of proven that they're just really nice, tight stories, character focused, but have a lot of good quality going on there. But yeah, so if you follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan, and follow, of course, the Batman Podcast Network at Batpod Network. There's a couple of new shows that I should plug. Definitely the Batman Book Club on Twitter at the Batman BC. Like as Rob mentioned, I joined a recent show on the Batman 89 adaptation, which was just really fun, and we did that because as kind of a lead into the Batman 89 comic series that's out now, which is just it's only 1 issue in, but I'm enjoying it. Also, BOF's Rick Shue has started a new podcast for BOF.
I saw that.
Yeah, we used to do satellite shows as part of the normal BOF podcast, but now Rick has taken that idea and just made the satellite show the show, basically. So
I was wondering, why wasn't that, somebody needs to do that, so leave it to Rick to come up with that. That's cool.
Yeah, so now, it's a legit Batman on Film sponsored show that is just satellite shows only, so now whenever we do want to cover non-Batman stuff like Rocky or Back to the Future or Waterworld or The Matrix or whatever, or anything, we can just use that as kind of a holder for that. It literally just launched today. You can follow it on Twitter at BOF Show. The first episode is up, and it's just me and Rick talking for 30 minutes about what we want the show to be, so it's kind of like a show about nothing. To take it back to this show. So yeah, definitely check that out. And it's if you subscribe to the Batman on Film podcast, you've already got it, because it's just part of that same feed. Because that one feed now has a lot of BOF shows. It's got the main BOF podcast and the satellite show and the audio version of the Social Hour vlog. Also, Pete Vera, friend of the show and BOF senior contributor, he keeps doing crazy stuff, and he's got his own other. He does too many podcasts, but yesterday he decided he wanted to start a new one. So if you go on Twitter at the Hulk Book Club at the Hulk BC,
I wondered if that was him.
That's Pete Vera. Yeah, it turned in it's a joke that is going to turn into a real podcast apparently. So I think on a show they talk about, we should start a Hulk Book Club, but Pete went ahead and just made the Twitter, and people are already very excited about it. So I think we're pretty sure we're going to do it. So it's already got its own Twitter at the Hulk BC. So it'll be like the Azrael podcast, and probably will come out before it. So a podcast that doesn't exist yet, but probably will, and has a Twitter. So
that's awesome. Terrence, you got anything? I know you've been posting recently on the YouTube channel, which is really good. What do you got going on? And recently, you've been kind of reactivating a Twitter handle, so when I'm tweeting, I'm like, which one is Terrence using? So, what do you got going on, sir?
Yeah, not too much. I just posting a couple videos here and there when I have time. I don't edit very well, so I just kind of one take. I'll be in the middle of Walmart or something and be like, "Oh, cool! There's a Batman thing here. Let me put that on YouTube." Or how many have they gotten any new Funko Pops? So they're kind of lazy videos, but they're short, so they're not bad.
That's fun.
Yeah, but Monday's the first day of school, so I got that going on.
Nice. Well, good luck this year, and hopefully everything goes well for you.
I don't think we've talked to Ryan since the whole big Super Mario Brother news with the director's cut and everything. Yeah, so congratulations on all that.
Yeah. It had we acquired a VHS tape this magical VHS tape that had an early extended rough cut of the Super Mario Brothers movie a couple of years ago, and we went through painstaking lengths to have it restored, and we put it up on the internet. So basically, we got the Snyder cut of equivalent of the Super Mario Brothers movie, and it kind of broke the internet for a couple of days, and people were really excited. The people that really care about it were really excited about it, and it got on some big websites. And actually, Zaki Asani even got to review it for IGN. So
well, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool, and they're still doing articles about it. Actually, the Den of Geek just today published an interview that they did with me and Stephen Applebaum that runs the site with me, and we interviewed with them a few weeks ago, and they posted another article about it today. So. So check that out at SMB Movie.
So when did the movie originally? What was its theatrical release? What year was that?
It was 1993, a couple weeks before Jurassic Park came out.
I thought it was right around my senior year. So who would have thought a movie like that and that old would still be delivering goods all of these years later? Like the things you guys have come across and found in just the last couple years is really kind of shocking is the only word. Like really, like you've got a director's cut, or there's newfound footage. So that's just amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, do you ever get to that point of like, okay, I think we're at the bottom of the barrel. There can't be anything else that we're gonna
constantly. I started the website in 2007, and every time I thought like, okay, this is all the merchandise I'm ever going to find. I find more. Or every time we talk to people that have been involved in the film, like, okay, there's nobody else that has any new information. We find new stuff. So at this point, I have stopped saying that's all because it's so crazy that the things that we think that we'll never find, we end up finding. We knew for years that there was a longer version of the movie that we'll never see, but we found scripts and footage and first-hand accounts from people, so we were able to, and things from early trailers, so we were able to get a good idea of what deleted scenes were filmed and what was missing, but we thought, but we'll never see it, and now we have. I mean, it's just crazy to be able to kind of see, kind of cultivate a whole niche fandom for something like that and have it and be able to get so much content out of this one thing and have it actually keep going for so many years and continue to be relevant. It's so weird. It's so weird. But
didn't spawn any sequels or anything like that. A one movie, and it's still delivering some 30-plus years.
Yep, because it's such a cultural odd. It's that weird. It's a combination of is the first video game movie adapted. First video game turned into a movie, and it was a huge bomb, and nobody knows. It's like trying to figure out why it's because it's so weird is a big reason of why it's continues to be analyzed, and there's just a lot of food for thought in it, So it's definitely not the run of the mill very commercial film. It was very creative filmmakers that got handed a whole bunch of money to make a thing, and they did their thing, and we're still talking about it. I mean, so in that way, it's kind of like a Snyder-y kind of thing, where it's like they were able to take these icons and just do something that people still struggle to understand. So
yeah, that's cool. Well, for me, you can follow me at Drummer Rob 10, and my other show that's been really pretty active lately is Right Between the Eyes podcast. It's a KISS podcast that I do with Nick and Nico Caruso, and KISS has fired up the End of the Road shows, so all of us, between the three of us, we will see about 5 shows between us, and if things go according to plan, they're actually going to come to Michigan, where I'm going to go see my second show. So we may actually get to meet up in real life and see a Kiss show together. So go check out that show. And since I mentioned them, go check out their Vigilante 1939 podcast. They got a great show there. A lot of great shows to check out. Ryan's already said a few. So if you're not listening to enough podcasts, we've given you a few more to listen to. So I think that's where we're going to put a pin in it for this one. Sorry we've been gone so long with this. For two short little issues you can read through a little bit, we found a decent amount to talk about. So in normal fashion, I would break this up into a couple, but since it's summertime, this is going to be nice, one big fat episode for you guys to enjoy. And my way of saying, sorry, it's taken us a little bit, but thanks for tuning in to the BatmanUniverse.net. And more importantly, thanks for listening to Robin. Everyone loves a Drake. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Take care.